and it's always good to bring back because there's so many new people at Tempo, and so many new scary things that have probably happened to us on show site. I'm going to paste the blog in here because if you want to go look at it sometime, you can go look at it. It's always on our website as well. Let me open up the chat. Chat. Okay. So just out of the gates, I would love for everyone to go around and mention one scary thing that happened on show site that you'll never forget, and the remedy for that. Chad was with me on this one. That would be Carmen's husband, and he probably doesn't even know this. I was working as a deck manager on a show with Chad, and he was our A2, and we had talent that was about to walk down our stage and go sing. And I'm standing backstage holding the talent. And then I was like, and I heard my show caller say, and send talent go. And I said, break a leg. And he starts walking to the stage and goes, do you have my mic? It was on the mic stand next to us. I didn't put it in his hand. And I ran out, grabbed his mic, but thank God, he's like, do you have my mic? As he was leaving. And we had it was a year that we had this ramp that went down into the stage. And my heart just hit my feet. And I have never forgotten a microphone on a talent ever since. I would make sure I have the microphone on my notes, in my hand, in their hand, and I'm no longer my responsibility. So it was scary. But I fixed it quickly, thank God, because they said something. But it was a really scary moment to me that I almost really choked on this beautiful talent moment when I didn't hand them the microphone.
Well, Barb, I would like to bounce off of that one because mine also involves a microphone.
Oh, you're right. I know you're right.
Yeah. I was really new to this. I was still working in the fitness industry, and I would side hustle with Nancy, helping her being a deck manager. And it was an award show, and it was a big award show. It was like Queen Latifah. I don't remember which award show it was, but it was a lot of big stars at the time. Probably like
IBM.
It was IBM. Okay. And Sinbad was the MC. And my job basically was to hand in the microphone and tell him when to go on the stage. It was a really easy gig. And he was really hyper, and he's super hyper aggressive as well. He's very, he in real life, that's just who Sinbad was. And I was holding the microphone in my hand, and the stage was dark, and they wanted him to go on stage, and they would hit the light, and they didn't call him in my ear yet, but there's they were introducing him. So he just took the mic out of my hand and walked on stage. I'm like, he's gone. He's gone. And then so he was on stage, and then it was a little bit of chaos, and they hit the light, and he was there. But I realized that I can't have that mic in my hand like this with someone like him. And now I keep it in my back pocket. I just keep it in my back pocket because that way he's not going to touch my back pocket. But that was the first time I realized, oh, it could go wrong. How could that go wrong? And it did. So it was a pretty easy fix, but that my heart hit my heart sank. I thought, oh crap. But that was just one.
I love that one. I could just remember you on comm going, he took the mic, he's out, he's gone. And he starts talking. I think he was talking to, and he wasn't.
I think he was talking before the light came on, by the way. He grabbed the mic and started talking while he was walking onto the stage. So it wasn't like he could hit his mark and hit the light. It was kind of like a voice of God. And and
he's out of here.
He gone.
Sasha. Oh, and I'll follow that with a Queen Latifah story at some point if we get time.
Oh,
Sasha,
yeah.
Tell us about your moment.
You're muted.
It's funny because the first thing that came into my head wasn't to do with mics, but as you're talking about mics, two things came into my head. So my one thing is mics go out all the time. I've learned I keep the OS mic, a wireless OS mic in my bag, on my waist. Plus, then there's also, I make sure if I'm producing or show calling or whatever, deck managing, that there is also a wired OS mic in case there's something wrong with the wire. I mean, I am like, and they're like, oh, we don't have that many lines. I'm like, find it. There's no way, because I've had moments. Another mic incident, and this was a lesson that I learned very early in my career. I was doing a Nike show, and I was, for the first time, room producing my own room. It was one of the other countries because it was the EMEA event or a global event, and I had EMEA was one of my regions, and I was producing a room, and we'd been in rehearsals. I had laryngitis, so I had to use a handheld to kind of give instructions and like, you know, talk them through what's going on stage and everything. And my audio guy, so my presenter did his thing on
Not my
stage.
husband, right? That one's
Well,
not my
so
husband.
not your husband. It was a German company. It was fun. So he'd just been on stage and then got surrounded by his people as all the, you know, VPs and senior VPs always get like their content people and their people surrounded him. And so I thought he was still in the huddle, and you can all guess what's coming up. Moments later, and I'm like trying to yell, switch off his mic, because I realize the guy is now in the bathroom, not surrounded by all his people. And I try and talk into my handheld that they'd switched off. And I ran across this ballroom, and couldn't yell. I mean, I was trying to yell, but I couldn't. And it will never happen again that I will literally be on the audio, like the moment that person steps off the stage, that mic is off. Worst moment of my life. One of
That's
my
their
first-
biggest fear. I'm like, don't take it off. We'll mute you. Like, I'm gonna go in the bathroom and you're not gonna hear me, right? They always say that.
And they go, is it going to be on when and I'm like, absolutely not. Don't worry. Once you step off stage, nothing's being recorded. And that one time, call me a liar, but it's never happened again. It was over years ago, and it will never happen again.
Oh my
But
gosh.
the worst thing, and I will after this, I will shut up. The worst thing to have ever happened, and I don't know if there was a solution. Well, there was a solution, but it was out of our control. I was on a large automobile show. We'll keep it nameless, and you know, with a group of our wonderful sisterhood and a brotherhood of stage managers, deck managers. There were, I think, 8 or 10 of us. That's how large this show was. We had vehicles that were coming on and off, and we had turntables. We had garage door LEDs. I mean, it was at the MGM Arena. So that's how big it was. And there were 2 of the big clay, you know, the clay cars that they build, like on trucks that were supposed to like come in and out and come in and turn. And the client, or rather the production company, did not put their foot down with the client to allow us to have adequate rest, adequate food, adequate water. Nothing adequate. We were running on empty from day one, and this was an 8-day gig. From day one, we were all in golden time. It was great financially, thank you very much. Hell on earth. And the scariest thing was that there was a little mix up in queuing because everyone was so exhausted. Someone had just mopped the deck, which they shouldn't have done until everyone was clear. So these are all things like make sure the deck's not wet at a time that people might be walking on it. Wait till the end of day. The only problem was there was no end of day. I mean, we literally it was horrible. And one of the turntables turned while the truck hadn't fully moved back, and it clipped it, and the truck and the clay things just started to do this. One of our dear sisters, and I don't know if I don't think she'd mind me saying, Sandy Ross, who, bless her heart, went in our minds, we're like, oh, we can protect this. And she ran out in front of this thing, which is gotta have been like 5,000 pounds. It's like solid clay. It's insane. To catch it. And those of us that were around her realized pretty darn quickly, that's not a good idea. So we grabbed her, pulled her to get her out of the way, but unfortunately, because the deck was wet, her feet went out from under her, and now she's lying on the ground, and this thing is falling, and we eventually like scrambled her out of it. And the client's response was, I hope the clay car wasn't damaged. It's very expensive. And we went, are you fucking kidding? Someone almost died.
But that tracks. That tracks, doesn't it? Like,
What it tracks to is making sure your EP is standing up for his crew and making sure that they are healthy, taking care. You're not going to have a show if you've killed half your crew.
Yeah.
And the fact that you care more about the piece of property than people, yeah, that said a lot. So that really was like one of the worst situations I've ever witnessed, been a part of. And yeah, it would hopefully would never happen again. But I haven't done a big auto show like that since, so I don't know if anyone learned any lessons.
Yeah.
Well, the lesson we all learned was we did not work for that company.
I was about to say, do you want to name drop that company so we don't work for them again? Like, no, you can't. That's fine. Don't do it.
Okay,
That's
my-
horrifying. That's a really scary story. Yeah.
I don't want to steal Sandy's thunder if she's watching it. I'm sorry, Sandy. That is your moment, but those of us that were there will never, ever forget it.
No, and look, I don't know what this event world would be like without Sandy Ross, right? Like,
Exactly.
Sandy Ross is her own amazing human. Thank you for sharing that. You kept saying OS Mike. Carmen, you probably know OS Mike. Do you, Annalise, Emma, or hi, Shelly?
We call it the oh shit mic, which is why it's the OS mic, so that you don't say oh shit in front of the client. It's basically your microphone if the lav or whatever, the handheld they're already holding, if there's a problem, it goes out, you run out and you hand somebody the new microphone. It's the oh shit mic, OS mic.
Deck managers usually have an OS mic in their back pocket. And when I worked with Chad, Carmen's husband, our co-deck manager, the woman who got me the job as a deck manager, Sherry Fox, she always carried it. And we all, like Sandy Ross and Sherry Fox, we just bow down to those lovely humans. And so we called it the Oh Sherry mic because it was always in Sherry's pocket. And Sherry's no longer on the show, but we still call it the Oh Sherry mic. It's legendary. If I work with Chad, we have the Oh Sherry mic. Anyway, that's a great story. I'm glad everybody lived, and I hope that production company's out of business. But I think the lesson learned there, the takeaway is to make sure your EP, and we kind of have that in the blog at some point, like knows how to schedule, and you got to stand up to your clients as an event producer. You have to stand up to your clients and like, this is not safe, this is not healthy, this is not fair, this is no bueno, and that's hard to do because they're paying you.
For meal breaks.
Yeah.
Because those are the things, if you're not in a labor house, a union house, those are the things that for some reason they seem to think, clients think, oh, well, and the difficulty is that if you've got, obviously you're doing rehearsals, so it's a different person coming in. Well, they're fresh. They've just started. They want to do their thing. But you've had like back to back. So I'm always, if you come in early and it's not your scheduled time, but it's our break time, I'm very sorry, but I need to break my crew, and I will fight tooth and nail for that. Meal breaks, bathroom breaks, they're all vital. You want to make sure your crew is happy, fed, watered, rested.
Yeah. So in pre-pro, when they're building the show, the EP needs to tell the client, this is actually the schedule that will work. This will not work.
Exactly.
Right. For safety, health and safety reasons, for sure.
Health and safety reasons, absolutely.
Thank you, Sasha. And who wants to go next? Hi, Shelly Ladd. I used to have that, by the way, that artwork. Tip to the side. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
No, it looks like a movie.
It is. It's Vertigo in French.
Yes, Vertigo. I had that. My roommate Ron Clark had that video. I had that poster in our house.
So cool.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, who's got another nightmare story with a fix that's happened to them on show site, on camera? Enda, I know you can broadcast.
Yep. So I do have a broadcast one, but I'm going to go with my corporate one first. So I was calling a show, and this actually happened this year. And normally pre-pro, I'm getting the client show deck, everything, so I can create the run of show prior to day of, right? Because that's normal to just have information. Well, we're not getting that. Our producer for the company I was working for kept sending emails, and I'm watching the emails. Hey, when are we going to get the Final show deck, no response. This is day 1. Day 2, hey, just checking it again, looking for the, no response. And we're getting closer and closer. By day of, still hadn't heard from them. I, was like, and was communicating with the producer, like, we don't know why there's been radio silence. So finally get to the venue, producer's there, and he says, okay, I have some information. I said, okay. So we sat, the client is not there yet. We're sort of guesstimating, okay, these videos we think go here. Didn't have the script yet. Again, I'm like feeling like I'm flying by. So I created, as we're working, I have my laptop, like a sort of, very skeleton outline of a run of show. And he's like, okay, she should be here in the next hour. It's like, okay, great. So I'm still in my mind thinking, all right, we still have about 4 or 5 hours before the show starts. We're supposed to do our cue to cue, but I'm still in my mind. I choose not to freak out, because that's just, it is in my, it is waste of energy. So I'm just going to go with this. She's going to come. Of course, we'll get the script. We'll get everything. So finally she arrives. I get the script. So I'm like, yay, I can work off of this. Tell my team, audio or lighting, everyone, like, all right, I'm gonna, while you all are still, tweaking lights, doing everything, I'm going to work on this run of show based upon the script. Still haven't gotten the show deck, by the way. So I still don't have my numbers. So I'm just like, all right, I'm reading the script. I'm adding these things in here. During this time, she is also working on registration issues. So she's like a one-man band. The slide deck had not been completed. I mean, the show deck. She's still working on the show deck. We were an hour late to start the show. I finally got again, no fault of ours, it's on them. So I get the show deck. So I'm now plugging in my numbers and, which slide and all, where the videos go. And literally our producer, I'm like, okay, I've got it. There's some things that are missing because, we just got it. So he takes it, makes copies for everyone. And I'm like, hey guys, we're in this together. I'm going to be following the script because that's what the host had, the MC has. That's what all the people who are going to be on stage have. As we're going, so, we start off, and I have a voice of God person who's, she's sitting next to me. So she's very talkative. So I'm like, okay, I gotta, kind of keep her sort of control so that she's not distracting us from this, that we really are learning. We never got a cue to cue. We got a couple of rehearsals with some of the singers. They were going to do the national anthem and a couple of those things, but literally did not have a full cue to cue. So we're in it, and we're like, I'm just reading, and a couple of times where I'm like, okay, nope, that's not where they're supposed to be. Then we get to a video, and literally, and this happened a couple of times, reading the script, and then they go off script, like, and so now let's go to this award. And I will say it was the most, white knuckling it calmly. And I said to my team when it was all said and done, thank you for being calm. Thank you for our video person, because if not for the fact that none of us freaked out, even when there was with the audio person. So there was this song that started a cappella, and then at this long, note, he was supposed to hit, the cue was then hit the track. Of course, it didn't work. Thank God the singer just kept going, because she held that note for a while and realized the song is, and it just, the system failed on us at that moment.
For all we know, she's still going.
Right. Yeah. And literally after all of these, for all intents and purpose, those who attended didn't know any of these mishaps, but literally started an hour late, never got everything on time. And it was one of those moments, again, appreciation of the crew, of our team, that we all like flow with this chaotic, unprepared experience. So that one will always stand out for me. On my broadcast side, and this is more, so back in the day, so there's 2 audio, since you guys mentioned audio. I used to work on a live show for a small independent station here in Chicago. And as a floor director, and I was a floor director on it, we would have hardwired lav mics that would be, there was a living room set. So the host was sitting in a chair, the guest was sitting on the sofa. And sometimes we would be able to put wireless mics on them, but we would always have some backup hard wires just behind the couch. And I would always, we would have this this open, like a 30-second open. No, I'm sorry. The host would do a cold open, and then we go into the pre-produced open, which was like 30 seconds, get the guest on the set, and then go. And so I had gotten used to running, and during those 30 seconds, miking our guest, like going under their clothes. And I would tell them beforehand, like, I'm going to do this quickly. I got to do this. And then get back into place within those 30 seconds and, and then cue the host to start the show. There was one of the times the mics go off, one of the wireless. My director says, all right, when I get off of this camera, I need you to crawl behind the sofa and put the hard wire on the guest. Guest doesn't know what I'm doing. So I literally am climbing. And our crew is laughing because they said, if you saw their face, they just like, here's my hand coming around them, putting something on them. And again, the host kept going, but that's one of my audio moments. And then recently, in the last couple of years, I work for Big Ten Network, and so we also have to be A2s. And thank God they've gotten new equipment, but again, counting down to going live. 2 mics go out and IFB stops working. And thank God I keep a little bin of extra mics, extra IFBs, and I'm scrambling, switching mics. And it's those moments, live shows, live productions, as well as it really does train you to not panic in the midst of a hugely panicked situation. So those are my, ones that will forever stand out for me.
And the remaining calm is a skill. Well done. It is a skill. And the takeaways, I think the biggest takeaway that I like about it is that you remained calm because you are driving that ship. And even if you're not even driving the ship, you're one of the crew members. Like, you don't want someone running around screaming. We all need to.
Nope.
And in broadcast, that's tough because there's a lot of screamers in broadcast.
And that's
lots of
for a
screaming
whole
people.
nother. Oh my God, directors who screamed. I think I learned what not to do from those people who would cause us as crew members, whether camera or floor or whatever. Like, number one, you don't want to work with them ever again. But then also it brings unnecessary stress to an already high intense situation. And it's like and it's wasted energy. You can't problem solve when you are freaking out and yelling and screaming and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And I think
then
you had a good point, like making sure, particularly as the show caller, you almost immediately have to get the trust, particularly if it's a crew you haven't worked with before, and say, look, we're all in this together. Things might go wrong. If they do go wrong, we all have to stay calm. If I ask you something twice, like there are certain, like I get on comms, the first thing I do is like, I like to check in with everybody. So if everyone gets back on, you'll name your position because I don't know you. So the amount of people go, oh, I'm on. Great. I don't know your voice.
Right.
Tell me your name, tell me your position. We check in. If I ask you something, I want to know that you heard me, whether you're still thinking about the answer, whatever, copy, whatever, it's short and sweet. There are just certain ways on comms that we should address one another and set yourself up with your team. I always walk around, say hello first, make sure I meet everybody, really get as, because we're human. And that, I think, your point to that was, and Dio, is that we're human. Yes, we can stay calm as long as those around us are doing what they should be doing. And I trust that you're doing that. If I ask you and you're in the middle of something, if you can't do it, another team member should be like, they're working on it, they'll get back to you. It's the dead air. If you leave dead, I'm going to be on you. I'm going to be like, what's going on? What's going on? Unless you come back to me and let me know, hey, look, we're working on it. It's going to take 10 minutes. I'll leave you alone for 10 minutes. But that's the communication. And that's what I try when I get on comms or when I meet everybody for the first time. Not to be a harder, like, things happen, but it's always like, if I set the precedent of how I want communication to go, then that sets us
Huge.
all up to be that team and to handle
Yeah.
those situations.
Makes you a very
100%,
good leader.
100%.
And then, Enla, I'm also thinking, as you were talking, tips for other projects when you guys take on other gigs. As a show caller, if I don't know them, I always say, can you send me the production schedule? Because I want to know when we're teching and I want to know when we're rehearsing and when will I have the show flow? Are you making the show flow or am I making the show flow? Because if I am, then I need some pre-production. And that way they get their brain going. And I've done it where they said, I have the show flow, I have the show flow, I have the show flow. And I get to show site and she hands me an agenda. That has happened to me during tech, like getting ready to tech and she handed me an agenda. So I learned from that one, like just keep doing what you're doing and bug them and try to get it before you sign the contract. So you know they got their shit together. And if they don't, then you can say, I can help you, or I'm gonna have to bow out because this doesn't sound good, or you're gonna be the heroine, which you are. So thank you.
And also,
All right.
once you're on site, make sure your crew has all that information. Even if they don't look at it, I want to get them the rehearsal schedule, the production schedule, and my show flow. You are as informed as I am.
Yeah. Yep. And then you get the respect from your crew too when you
Yes,
do that. Like
yes,
they just want
agreed.
something. Like, oh, I just handed somebody a show flow on my last show, and he was like, they were loading, and he's like, oh my god, already, this is amazing, thank you. Okay. Shelly, Carmen, Annalise, do you guys have a story that you could tell us that was scary but you have a fix?
I definitely have a story, but before I also, in that discussion about comms, it gave me an idea for another tempo think tank that maybe we could do. Because I was just on an event and it seemed like there were some people that I was working with that were maybe younger and newer to events that didn't understand comm etiquette and didn't understand the direct way that we speak to each other or in asking questions like, did you do this or has this, been done, since they weren't communicating. And they saw that as like disrespect and that I wasn't trusting them. Like, I think it was just that hadn't been around long enough, and sort of also what Mike was talking about in the last think tank. I think it would be great if we had a think tank for like people newer to events, teaching them just like how what's expected in terms of communication on site on comms, and
Okay. I
anyhow,
like that.
so I can think of all kinds of things that have gone wrong in events. I think maybe the worst one, I had gotten a call from an AV vendor. They reached out to me cold on LinkedIn, still not sure how they found me, but asking if I could be a show manager. And I was like, well, what is the show manager? What does that mean to you? And they're like, well, we just want you to kind of be the liaison between the tech team and the client. And I'm like, okay, but and maybe it's just because of my background anyway, it then turned out it's like, oh, I'm sort of the production manager and the producer and the deck manager and the EP, like kind of doing everything and liaisoning like with the venue, just in like, oh, we don't have our tables set yet. Like when is like when, so probably a lot more hats than I would like to have had for one job. And then when that's happening and your attention is so divided, things sometimes don't happen exactly the way they're supposed to. So we were starting our general session, and it started with a couple people that were coming out and speaking. They weren't using the DSM. And then the person whose event it was, I think she was the CEO of the association, and she had already been so nervous. We had been through rehearsals with her. Those had all been great, but she was so nervous. And somehow I like won her trust backstage, and she goes out finally now. We're, like halfway through the session. She's the first one to use the DSM. And she just says, oh, wait, I forgot I need to take care of something backstage or something, and runs off the stage. And she comes, no one knows what is wrong because we're all backstage. We can't like see what's happening. And she just comes back and she's panicked and she's like, I can't see my script. So we're trying to process what is happening, and someone from graphics or video goes out and checks, and somehow the DSM was off. And so she was seeing black screen when she went out there. And so I'm with her, like the whole thing probably was fixed in less than 60 seconds from the time she ran off. But she was mortified of like, what do I do? And so I'm just standing with her and I'm like, okay, we're just gonna first of all, it was fixed long before actually, it was probably fixed in under 30 seconds, but she was so
Was this
upset.
live or rehearsal?
This was live now.
Oh,
So she's so upset. It's like we can breathe and take a moment, right? Before we don't like everyone out there is eating their lunch. Like it was a plated like service.
Yeah.
So they were eating, so they probably just didn't even they probably honestly weren't even paying attention when she first came out because they were eating their, salad or whatever. But get her calmed down and it's like, okay, we're just gonna tell it like I just gave her a joke. Like I'm like, you just go out there and make a joke. And she's like, what do I say? And we were in Philly and there was a lot of sports stuff going on, but she didn't want to say anything about sports. So I was like, okay, like just go out there and say that you heard they were serving dessert backstage and you didn't want to miss out. And so she goes back out and she doesn't say that exact joke. She says something weird about something food, fine. And then she recovers and goes on. And then when she came off stage, she wouldn't even look at me. Like she hated me for the rest of the time. So, I mean, one, I guess, fix, like, I guess always make sure that you get eyes on that, like immediately before, although two people, the client and someone else did say they had eyes on it and that they had seen it up and working. But, I think that was the worst thing
my
that
gosh.
ever.
And you know what one of the fixes is now? Have you seen the spy cams on DSM? So DSMs are the downstage monitors. If you don't know, the confidence monitors. I now work on a lot of shows with actually a spy cam down there. Either it's up in the truss or it's on the floor. It's not just my multi-view that shows me what should be on the DSM. It shows
Right.
me if they're turned on or off.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
ask for spy cams now where I can physically see what the presenter sees.
That would have been super helpful. In the end, I think so two people said they saw it on, but I don't think they did. I think their brain tricked them into thinking that they saw it. I think I know what actually what actually happened was that someone came into the room overnight, saw that they were on and turned them off purposefully and then didn't tell anyone that they had done that. And so the operators in our room were like, well, we left, they were on like it. And but since the someone on the client side and one of our operators said they thought they saw them, like production ended up getting totally covered. They blamed it on catering that they had kicked a cable. And so the fix was, in order to make the client happy that we were being proactive, we put rope and stanchion around any area where I mean, no one was near there, but where any of the catering staff could have possibly accidentally kicked a cable, and then everyone was happy that we were so proactive in making sure it wouldn't happen again.
Way to go. And you know what, Carmen? I know that if you were the dedicated deck manager, that wouldn't have happened. Because the dedicated deck manager walks the deck every morning. You look at your DSMs, you have them click through, you test the clickers, you look at the speaker timer, right? We do all that as deck managers. And that's also part of my spiel about, what do you mean we just mic people up and put them on the stage? First, we don't mic people up and we just put them on the stage. Like we do a lot more than that, right? And that's one thing that would have prevented that if you weren't just the show manager, but if you were the dedicated deck manager.
Right. Which there was not one. And then I even asked and then they told me that, well, there wasn't one, right? Yeah, it was just a matter of being responsible for far too many
in the other room. Is this the one we talked about recently where you had to be in the other room as well? You weren't even near the stage?
No, that was a different
one.
That's another horror story.
No, that one wasn't a horror story, but on that show that happened just recently. And to your Nancy, when you're saying you forgot the mic, I forgot to hand the clicker to someone as they were going out. So they went out and the show caller says, "Do they have the clicker?" And I was like, "Oh."
Heart in stomach.
I was like, no, they don't. And I was outside in the lobby because there was no backstage, so that's where we were set up. And I had there was a secure door that I had to have someone let me in through that door. So I had to find that person, let me in through the door, get there, again, it was fine. He was talking, and I just stood at the side, like the very side of the stage until he kind of was like, oh, and I need my clicker. And then it was like in his hand,
Awesome.
in his hand and off. But that also was not a great feeling.
No.
Always,
And the fix for that is I always have I always have an extra clicker on the podium.
Well,
if there's no lectern, if there's one, I
they
put one under.
specifically asked for, I was told I couldn't put one out. So I had 2 clickers on me at all times, like so they wanted me to have both clickers, not have one on the table, right? But yes.
Yeah, that's what you
Yeah,
normally do,
that
right?
was
You put it on
my
a table, you put it under a wedge. Like I just show the presenter. If for some reason you could,
where on the stage, if someone
that
says
is
don't come out there, my response to that would be, A, what are your reasonings? Because B, here are my reasonings for that very, it needs to be, there needs to be a backup somewhere close.
if it wasn't working, Carmen, you're outside. Even if you'd give it to him, it wasn't
Yeah.
working. The backup should be right within arm's reach.
Yeah.
Right.
Poor Carmen. Annalise, thanks for turning on your camera. You look lovely, friend.
Oh, thank you. I definitely have some nightmare stories. I used to stage manage a variety show on the Strip in Las Vegas, and we had a lot of different types of acts and things and that. So there was one situation, this was actually leading up to a show, where we had these skaters who they had a table that there was a specific spot on the stage that was marked for the table to go. Well, one day they came in and they had decided they felt like the stage was sinking a little bit in the middle. And they said this is no longer level, the spot where they were putting their table. And they said we need to move it like a foot or so forward so that it's level again. Otherwise, we can't do our act, which sounds simple enough, but all of the lighting cues were already automated. And so the lighting cues were set to happen in a specific spot. And so when I went and talked to lighting, they were like, no, we don't have enough time to reset all of these cues. Like they can't move their table. And so it was kind of the standoff of the skaters saying, if you can't move our table, we're not doing our act, it's not safe. And then lighting saying, there's no way we can reset all of these cues in time. And we had like 30 minutes before doors opened. And I was like, oh gosh, what do we do here? So my compromise was, obviously I had seen the act a million times by this point, and so I knew they had like 5 big tricks that they did. And so those were the things where safety was the biggest concern, because if they're in the middle of one of these big tricks and a light catches them in the eye and blinds them or something, that could be really bad. The other stuff they were doing was more like not filler necessarily, but easier steps. And so if a light did catch them at the wrong time during one of those filler moments, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So I asked the lighting person, I said, okay, these 5 lighting cues where they're doing their big tricks, do you have enough time to change just those cues? He was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, well, why don't you try? We got 30 minutes here. Go ahead and try to change these cues. Let's see if we can get that done in time. And so I got the performers calmed down, and I told them, I hear you. I'm working on this. We're going to get this taken care of. And so we were able to change those 5 cues in time for that show, and then the next day we could get the cues completely changed over. So that was definitely a good test of problem solving and getting everybody to work together as a team to solve the issue. The other nightmare scenario that stands out in my mind was during a show. I feel like generally, and probably a lot of you can relate to this, I feel like I'm a little bit of an anxious person. And so I just naturally, when I'm at an event, I'm like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Which turns out to be helpful, because then when things actually do go wrong, it doesn't throw me off, because I'm like, oh, I already thought about that going wrong. The one thing I did not think of going wrong was we were in the middle of a show. It was during a thunderstorm, and lightning struck the building. So everything goes out all at once. The lights go out, the sound goes out, automation goes out. And I was like, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do in that scenario. Luckily, it came back on pretty quickly. Um, but then again, I'm trying to think worst case scenario here. And I'm like, what if it happens again? And luckily we were through most of our dangerous acts by that point, but we did still have some aerialists that were supposed to go out. And so that was my sort of last minute call in the middle of the show. Like I was talking to everybody on the comms, like we can't send aerialists out because if they get stuck, 10 feet up above the ground, that's going to be a real problem. So yeah, I kind of learned in that moment. I'm like, it's good to plan ahead. It's good to try to problem solve ahead of time and think about all the different things that can go wrong so that you have your bases covered. But also to some extent, sometimes things happen that you just really can't predict, and you have to be able to think on your feet and figure things out.
You can't control the acts of God. That's like like my husband's a builder. In his contract, it says not responsible for an act of God. Like in the contract, it literally says not responsible for an act of God.
It's in our contract. It's in the ones we sign with our clients too.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so God. What I heard you say though, reminded me so much of my best friend Heather. She was in production forever, mostly television and film, and the location manager, and she's so anxious. She would never sleep the night before a big shoot or whatever because she's worried about parking and what if somebody's in the spot and like everything could go wrong. So she would get up early and she'd be on location so early, going through everything. She wouldn't sleep the night before, but she was the best location manager you ever had. Like nothing went wrong because Heather would get there at 3 a.m. for a 5 a.m. call and notice that there's a semi truck parked in where the big scene's taking place, and she had enough time to get that damn thing towed or whatever because no parking was posted. But I love the way you are anxious. I think that's a good. It's not a skill that we have. It's a trait that we have in production. If you're in production, you have
It's actually a superpower.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's a superpower.
Well done.
100%. Thinking plan A through Z,
Yeah.
but then
And-
also being
And having
on the fly.
and having the guts to say we're done with aerials. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's guts. Like you're gonna disappoint a lot of people, but you could potentially save some people's lives. So that was a very smart call, and that is hard to do. That is very hard to do. So
Yeah,
girl.
there were a couple times I had to stand up for the performers on safety things like that because the directors and the producers, frankly, were very concerned with, the bottom line. Yep. And they were worried that if some of the big acts got taken out, that the audience would be upset. And so there was one time I pulled an act for safety reasons, and they said to me like, oh, well, then the audience is going to be mad and the investors are going to be mad. And do you really want that on you? I was like, yes. I would rather have that on me than, somebody getting
body.
seriously injured or killed. Yeah, exactly.
That's what Sasha needed on that car show. Sasha needed you.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a bit of a mini revolt. It was like, things have to change. Otherwise we're all walking off the show and you won't have a show.
Nice. All right, we have only 6 minutes left. Shelley, do you have a good tidbit you could share with us and we could learn from?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of my challenging stories are very similar, but in the vein, I just want to say, we're such a unique breed of people. I mean, not everyone is cut out for live event or live broadcast or, so it's just about being flexible. And I know for doing a lot of corporate live events that we often encounter people who are managing the live event department who know nothing about live events. They've been promoted up from vitamin marketing to now they're running all the live event, and that's just not their world. And I do recall one show that I was managing, and the room is packed. The tables are packed very tightly, so you can't walk through the crowd. You can't walk through the tables, really. It's very, very, very tight. And the special events lead is over here and she's just sweating. She's like, I'm just not cut out for this. This is not what I signed up for. I'm not cut out for that. I'm sitting with her and I'm holding her hand. I'm like, everything is fine. Everything is fine. We had rehearsals. Now, mind you, the hosts, which are the executives and the owners of the companies, didn't show up for rehearsals, and they never do. And I've worked with them for a million years, and I know they know, and they know I know, and we're all good. But she she doesn't know or doesn't have the confidence to believe that all is fine. And the two host executives are at the front and center table, and she's panicking that they're not going to know when to go. And I'm like, they're going to know when to go. They know when to go. They know when to, I promise you, I promise you. She's like, no, no, please, I need you to go tell them. I need you to go tell them now. I'm like, I promise you, we've done this. They know they're going to be fine. She's like, no, please, I can't. I'm going to lose it right now. I said, okay, fine. Watch me. So I'm in this beautiful little black cocktail get up and, you know, the hat and the everything. And so I get down on my hands and knees and I crawl through the floor, through the chairs, through the odds, I lay hands on Doug's knee, and he looks at me, and I look over at her, and I said, she just wants me to make sure that you know when to go. And you're going to go up next, right? He said, yes. And then he thumbs her up, and then we're all good. So I crawl back and all was well. But, you know, I mean, we're like therapists sometimes in just maintaining the calm in uncontrollable or unexpected situations. So I don't know if there's a learned lesson there, but you know,
Well,
yeah.
there, like you met the need of the client. But one thing I want to add before we go, Nancy, is I think because everyone is so good at what they do, and because you're all unconsciously competent, it feels like what you do is really easy. But to put someone else in your shoes would almost be impossible. And I'm so acutely aware of that because of my industry switch from fitness to this. Believe it or not, their fitness and this is so close together. And I think sometimes we think this job is, you know, oh, I can do that with no problem. Yeah, you can do it with no problem, but there's not very many people that can actually do it with no problem. You know,
Exactly.
so because you guys are so unconsciously competent on what you do that you're like, I forget who said we're a breed, like we're a special breed.
Right.
It is so true. It's and the same thing, like I said, for my fitness background, like unconsciously competent at what you do. So you feel like, well, actually, it's so easy. This job is so easy, 9 times out of 10. For you, it is because you're so good at what you do and you know how to do it so well. But
Right.
other people, other personality types could never do this. So it's like 1% of the population can do what you do. I'm convinced 1%. You couldn't.
Right.
I look at my girlfriends sometimes and think, oh God, they could never do this. But they're good at other things, but to be plopped in and to be a deck manager or to be a show caller or even to be a room producer, like a room producer seems like it's so easy for me. It's a certain skill set and a certain personality type and a certain way of thinking ahead that it's natural for me, but it's not natural for 99.9% of the population.
Right.
And
And
I
that's
think
to be mindful of that, you know.
we need to respect what we
So
do.
important.
And
Because that moment for her was everything. I mean, she literally was going to pass out.
yeah.
And I'm like, I promise, I got
got
this.
you.
And together we have this. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that we are all amazing.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Very unique.
Agreed.
I agree. I thank you so much, y'all, for sharing
was
these
fun.
stories. This will be post a fun one. We'll post it on our YouTube channel where all of our think tanks live. If you haven't been there, take a gander. You'll see all kinds of topics on how to be a better freelancer, whether it's with show skills or business entities or insurance or whatever. Like we've covered the gamut. We did just post, I see the blog post, I shared it in the chat, the LinkedIn job post. I think what I might want to do is ask people to share their scariest moments on ShowSite. You know, quick little blurbs. Like one of them, we had beach balls, like during a big awards night. Someone had the brilliant idea, it was a beach theme to get beach balls. Well, it was a great idea until they started hitting chandeliers and glass started falling down on all the attendees. It's a little stuff like that we need to share with the world. So I would love to.
Well, I think it's the story and then the lesson learned.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us would go, oh, in that situation, we would do this. But there's always that maybe we would do that, but maybe there's another lesson that somebody else learned that we can learn from. Right.
Yeah, that triggered a memory for me. Sorry, real quick, but at one event, we threw paper airplanes from the balcony with special messages in it, and it happened to hit the executive owner right in the forehead and stuck. It stuck. So he was literally bleeding from an airplane, a paper airplane. So like that was, yeah. maybe not such a great idea. We thought it was so
Just
cool, all these great little messages coming down from the balcony above. And it's like, oh, and the one person it hits, not that anyone deserved to be hit or should be hit, but that's the
bullseye.
owner, the client.
Okay, that's crazy talk. Oh my
And it's
gosh.
funny how one story leads into another, because Shelley, when you were talking about crawling on the floor, my crawling on the floor story came into my head, and I was like, we all have,
Oh,
one
and that
story
goes right
leads
to my deck manager who had to do, we call it crotchgate, when a leotard during a talent show came undone. And my deck
Oh.
manager associate, Kim, who's one of the funniest people in the plant, we call it crotchgate, had to go underneath that girl's skirt and redo her leotard for her.
Yeah. Huh.
Hey,
So
we can
that
go on
one,
and on really quick, Nancy, but
Good.
my job in fitness, when I was producing fitness videos, I was on crotch. My job as the director was crotch watch. And I had to make sure there was nothing funky going on and making sure there's no sweat. I had to spray water on people to make sure it was like the sweat. The role was called crotch watch. And I
my
did
gosh.
this, by the way, with huge fitness celebrities. Like
we won't name any names.
I'm not naming names, but y'all know who they are.